Commander Zeth Kar flexed his 4 primary manipulator arms as he gazed through the reinforced viewing portal of the flagship Dominion's Edge. The sleek vessel, stretching nearly 3 kilometers in length, hummed with the quiet efficiency that had made the Kryllian Empire the undisputed masters of 17 star systems. His tactical team, a collection of the galaxy's most feared military minds, stood at attention behind their holographic displays. "Sir, we have visual confirmation of the human settlement," announced Sub-Commander Rixtal, his voice carrying that particular tone reserved for discussing vermin infestations. "The colony designation is New Haven." Zeth Kar's mandibles clicked in what passed for amusement among his species. New Haven? How quaint. These primates and their pathetic optimism. He turned to face his assembled officers, each one a veteran of countless planetary conquests. "Gentlemen, before us lies what the humans laughably call a colony. Population, what was it again, Rixtal? Approximately 50,000 sentients, sir. Mixed civilian and minimal defensive personnel. 50,000. Zeth Kar savored the number like fine wine. "We've eliminated entire civilizations 10 times that size before breakfast. The Vorthak Confederacy fell in 6 hours. The crystal cities of Nexus Prime crumbled in half that time." He gestured dismissively toward the planet below, where the human settlement glowed like a tiny ember against the darkness. "And yet, High Command insists we approach this with caution." The bridge erupted in what could generously be called laughter, though it sounded more like metal grinding against stone. Tactical Officer Nex Vor, whose previous assignment had been the complete annihilation of the Aquarian republics, shook his head in disbelief. "Commander, surely this is some form of elaborate jest. Humans barely discovered faster-than-light travel 50 rotations ago. Their weapons technology is primitive at best." "Precisely my thoughts, Nex Vor." Zeth Kar's 3 eyes focused on the tactical display showing the colony's pathetic defensive grid. Kinetic projectile weapons, basic energy shields, and what appears to be are those actually ballistic missiles. "Yes, sir. Chemical propulsion systems. Positively ancient." Zeth Kar's confidence swelled like a balloon in a vacuum chamber. The Kryllian Empire had conquered species with technology spanning millennia of advancement. Their plasma cannons could level mountains, their shields could deflect stellar radiation, and their tactical computers could calculate battle outcomes before the first shot was fired. This would be less of a battle and more of an extermination. "Signal the fleet," he commanded, his voice carrying the weight of absolute certainty. "Begin orbital bombardment in exactly 1 standard hour. I want this over before the second moon rises." Tonight we add another chapter to the legend of Kryllian superiority. If only he had known that some legends are written in blood. The first plasma barrage lit up New Haven's atmosphere like a cosmic fireworks display. Zeth Kar watched with satisfaction as his fleet's primary weapons carved molten scars across the colony's outer perimeter. Standard procedure dictated that most civilized species would begin broadcasting surrender terms within minutes of the initial demonstration. "Sir, we're receiving a transmission from the colony," reported Communications Officer Keldan, his antennae twitching with anticipation. "Excellent. Put it through. Let's hear their pathetic pleas for mercy." The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a human female in what appeared to be a military uniform. Her brown hair was pulled back in a practical knot, and her green eyes held an expression that Zeth Kar found puzzling. Where was the terror? The desperate begging. "This is Captain Riley Nash of the New Haven Colonial Defense Force," the human said, her voice steady as bedrock. "You have exactly 30 seconds to withdraw from our system before we show you why attacking a human colony is the galaxy's most expensive mistake." The bridge fell silent. Zeth Kar's mandibles hung open in disbelief. Did she just threaten us?" "It appears so, sir," Rixtal replied, equally stunned. Before Zeth Kar could formulate a response, the transmission cut to a different human. This one was older, wearing coveralls stained with industrial lubricants. His weathered face bore the kind of smile that made predators nervous. "Hey there, space bugs," the human said with unsettling cheerfulness. Marcus Volt here, Chief Engineer. Just wanted to let you know we've been expecting you for about 6 months now. Hope you brought spare parts, because you're gonna need them." The transmission ended abruptly. Zethkar stared at the empty display, his 3 eyes blinking in sequence. Expecting us? How could they possibly have known? His answer came in the form of a proximity alarm that nearly shattered his eardrums. "Sir, massive objects incoming from the colony surface." Through the viewing portal, Zethkar watched in horror as what appeared to be modified mining charges streaked toward his fleet. These weren't sophisticated missiles with guidance systems and warheads. These were chunks of industrial explosives strapped to improvised rocket boosters, flying in completely unpredictable patterns. Evasive maneuvers. He barked, but his pilots were trained to dodge elegant, calculated attacks from civilized warfare. They had no idea how to avoid what essentially amounted to flying scrapyard bombs launched by lunatics. The first explosion rocked the Dominion's edge, overloading 3 shield generators. More followed, each one a testament to human ingenuity and complete disregard for proper military protocol. "Sir, they're using their ore processing facilities as weapon foundries," Tactical Officer Nexvor reported, his voice climbing several octaves. "They've turned their entire industrial infrastructure into a weapons platform." Zethkar watched his neat, orderly battle plan dissolve into chaos as more improvised projectiles screamed toward his fleet. These humans weren't fighting like any species he'd encountered. They were fighting like they had absolutely nothing to lose and everything to prove. This was going to be a very long day. 3 hours into what should have been a routine planetary cleansing, Zethkar found himself questioning every military textbook he'd ever studied. His ground forces, comprised of the Empire's elite shock troopers, were supposed to have secured the primary settlement by now. Instead, his communication channels buzzed with increasingly frantic reports from the surface. "Command, this is Strike Team Alpha," crackled through the speakers, the voice distorted by what sounded like an explosion in the background. "We've lost visual on the enemy. They're using the storm drain system to move around. Our thermal scanners can't penetrate the weight. What is that sound?" The transmission dissolved into screaming. "Strike Team Beta, report," Zethkar demanded. "Sir, we're pinned down behind what used to be a shopping complex. The humans have turned their sprinkler systems into chemical dispensers. Half my squad is vomiting uncontrollably, and the other half can't see through whatever they're pumping into the air." Zethkar's confidence began developing hairline fractures. "What kind of chemicals?" "Military-grade toxins." "No, sir. It appears to be cleaning supplies. Industrial-strength floor cleaner mixed with pepper extract and something that smells like rotting fish." The commander's left eye twitched. These primitives were defeating his elite forces with janitor supplies. The situation deteriorated further when Strike Team Gamma encountered what their squad leader described as the most terrifying human female in the known galaxy. Through his tactical display, Zethkar watched in morbid fascination as a middle-aged human woman in a laboratory coat orchestrated what could only be described as organized mayhem. "This is Dr. Elena Cross speaking to any Kryllian forces monitoring this frequency." Her voice came through clear and calm, like someone discussing the weather. "I'm the colony's head of agricultural sciences, and I wanted to personally thank you for this learning opportunity. You see, we've never had a chance to field test our pest control methods on such a large scale." Before Zethkar could process the implications of being called a pest, his tactical display lit up with new contacts. But these weren't military units. According to his scanners, children were moving through the colony's ventilation systems, elderly humans were coordinating from elevated positions, and what appeared to be the local book club had barricaded themselves in the library and were somehow jamming his communications equipment. "Sir, we're receiving reports from multiple teams," Sub-Commander Rixtal announced, his usually steady voice cracking like thin ice. "The humans have weaponized their garbage collection vehicles, turned their playground equipment into defensive positions, and somehow rigged their public transit system to move troops through underground tunnels that don't appear on any of our orbital scans. The final insult came when Strike Team Delta reported being ambushed by a group of human teenagers who had apparently learned to make explosives from online tutorials and were using their knowledge of local terrain to devastating effect. "Command, they're everywhere and nowhere," screamed the Delta leader. "We thought we cornered a group in the school building, but they disappeared through some kind of hidden passage. Now they're behind us, above us, and I swear one of them just emerged from a locker that couldn't possibly fit a human being." Dr. Cross's voice returned to the frequency, now with an edge of scientific curiosity that made Zeth Karr's blood run cold. "Oh, and gentlemen, you might want to avoid the North Residential District. We've been experimenting with some interesting applications of our geothermal heating system. Let's just say the ground temperature there has become rather inhospitable." As casualty reports flooded in and his tactical computers struggled to track an enemy that refused to follow any logical pattern, Zeth Karr realized with growing horror that his perfectly planned invasion had become something no Kryllian commander had ever faced before. A fair fight against opponents who cheated at every possible opportunity. And they were losing. By hour 6, Zeth Karr had stopped trying to understand the tactical reports and started drinking heavily from his emergency medicinal supplies. The humans had transformed their entire colony into what his military analysts were now calling a weaponized ecosystem of pure insanity. "Sir, you need to see this," Tactical Officer Nexvor announced, his voice hollow with defeat. "The humans have modified their agricultural harvesting equipment." The main display showed what had once been a grain combine harvester, now bristling with welded metal plates and sporting what appeared to be a mining laser mounted where the grain chute used to be. It moved through the battlefield like a mechanical predator, its massive wheels crushing Kryllian defensive positions while its improvised weaponry carved through armor that was supposed to withstand plasma cannon fire. "How is that even possible?" Zeth Karr demanded. "According to our intelligence, the machine is being operated by someone called Farmer Joe Henderson, age 73, who apparently knows every bolt on that contraption better than his own grandchildren's names," Nexvor reported with the tone of someone reading his own obituary. The situation became even more surreal when engineer Marcus Volt's voice crackled through their supposedly secure communications channel. "Hey there, Commander Uglyface. Marcus here again. Hope you're enjoying the fireworks show because we're just getting started. How did you penetrate our encrypted frequencies?" Zeth Karr snarled. "Oh, that? Billy Torres from the high school computer club cracked your codes about 4 hours ago. Turns out your super advanced alien encryption is just a really fancy version of something we solved back in the 21st century. But hey, don't feel bad about it." Before Zeth Karr could respond, explosions began blooming across his tactical display like deadly flowers. The humans had somehow weaponized their mining operation, turning charges meant for extracting ore into precisely timed demolitions that brought down entire sections of the colony's infrastructure onto his advancing forces. "They're collapsing their own buildings," Sub-Commander Rix Tal gasped. "What kind of species destroys their own habitat to fight an enemy?" "The kind that builds it back better afterwards," came Marcus Volt's cheerful reply through their hijacked communications. "See, that's the difference between you and us, Bug Boy. You conquer, we adapt, you destroy, we rebuild. You follow the rules, we make up new ones as we go." The psychological warfare was perhaps the most devastating aspect of the human defense. Every few minutes, their hijacked communication system would broadcast messages from different colonists. Children reading poetry about how mean the aliens looked. Elderly humans sharing recipes for Kryllian surprise casserole. The local radio DJ providing play-by-play commentary of the battle as if it were a sporting event. And there goes Jenkins with the modified fertilizer spreader, folks. That's gotta hurt. The visiting team is really struggling with our home field advantage today. But the final straw came when Dr. Elena Cross demonstrated what she called applied botanical warfare. Somehow, the agricultural scientist had managed to accelerate the growth of the colony's decorative thornbush plantings, creating a maze of razor-sharp vegetation that moved and shifted according to patterns only she understood. You see, Commander, her voice drifted through their speakers with academic politeness. When you spend 30 years studying how to make things grow in hostile environments, you learn quite a bit about making hostile environments grow around unwanted visitors. Zethkar watched his elite forces being systematically dismantled by farmers, teenagers, senior citizens, and a woman who talked about combat tactics like she was discussing her garden club. His sophisticated battle plans, perfected through 17 successful conquests, were completely useless against opponents who treated warfare like an extreme home improvement project. For the first time in his distinguished military career, Commander Zethkar of the Kryllian Empire began to suspect that he had made what humans would call a really big mistake. The kind of mistake that ended careers, toppled governments, and got written into history books as cautionary tales. Hour 9 brought what Zethkar's sensors initially dismissed as space debris. The objects approaching from the outer system moved in erratic patterns, showed no energy signatures consistent with proper military vessels, and appeared to be held together with what his computer systems politely described as non-standard construction materials. "Sir, we're being hailed by the lead vessel," Communications Officer Keldan reported, his voice betraying confusion. The transmission revealed a grizzled human male with a beard that could house small animals and eyes that twinkled with barely contained mischief. "This is Captain Rex Donovan of the cargo hauler Rusty Bucket leading the New Haven Relief Fleet. We're here to pick up our people and drop off some party favors." Zethkar's tactical display showed 17 ships of varying sizes and questionable structural integrity. Some appeared to be mining vessels, others looked like converted civilian transports, and one was clearly a mobile casino that someone had welded armor plating onto. "Relief fleet?" Zethkar muttered. "Those are civilian ships." "Correction, Commander Fancy Pants," Captain Donovan's voice crackled through their speakers. "These are civilian ships with very creative modifications." Jenkins here turned his grain hauler into a torpedo launcher. The Patel family converted their passenger liner into a boarding craft. And Crazy Eddie, well, let's just say his garbage scow is about to become your worst nightmare. Before Zethkar could process this information properly, the situation on the ground deteriorated further. His remaining forces reported being systematically outmaneuvered by what appeared to be an intelligence network operated entirely by pre-adolescent humans. In command, "The enemy somehow knows our every move before we make it," reported Strike Team Echo's leader. "They're anticipating our flanking maneuvers, our supply drops, even our bathroom breaks." The answer came from an unexpected source, a 10-year-old human girl who somehow accessed their communication network. "Hi, alien guys. This is Emma Martinez from Mrs. Peterson's 4th grade class. We've been watching you through our telescope club, and you're really bad at hiding your ships. Also, your walking patterns are super predictable. My grandpa says you march like robots, and robots are easy to outsmart." Sub-Commander Rix Tao looked like he was having an existential crisis. "Sir, we're being defeated by elementary school children. The humans' intergenerational warfare reached its peak when the colony's elderly population began providing tactical advice that turned every Kryllian advantage into a liability. Through their hijacked communications, Zethkar could hear conversations between human defenders and their elders. "Now, Billy, when I fought the Centauri Raiders back in '89, we learned that fancy technology breaks real easy when you hit it with a big enough hammer," came the voice of someone who sounded approximately ancient. "Thanks, Grandma Rose. Should we use the sledgehammers from the construction site?" "No, honey, use the ones from the mining equipment. They're heavier." But the moment that truly shattered Kryllian morale came when one of his squad leaders made the catastrophic mistake of threatening a human child. The response was immediate and terrifying. Parents, grandparents, siblings, family friends, and complete strangers converged on that position with a fury that made their previous resistance look like a peaceful protest. "Sir, we've lost contact with Strike Team Kappa," Rix Tal reported, his voice shaking. Their last transmission was screaming. Captain Riley Nash's voice cut through their communications with deadly calm. "Let me make something crystal clear to you alien morons. You want to play conqueror? Fine. You want to destroy our buildings? Annoying but acceptable. You threaten our kids? Now it's personal. The ferocity that followed made Zethkar realize that everything before had been the humans simply playing with them. When truly motivated, these creatures fought like the universe itself depended on their victory. His forces began surrendering in groups, preferring capture to facing humans who had stopped treating this like a game. With his ground forces in full retreat and his fleet taking damage from flying scrapyard bombs, Zethkar made the decision that would haunt him for the rest of his considerably shortened career. His pride, already wounded beyond recognition, demanded one final, devastating blow. "Prepare the planetary bombardment cannons," he ordered, his voice cold with desperate fury. "We'll glass the entire colony. Every building, every bunker, every blade of grass. I want nothing left but molten rock." Sub-Commander Rix Tal hesitated. "Sir, that would constitute a war crime under 17 different galactic treaties. The civilian casualties alone would do it." Zethkar roared. "I will not be remembered as the commander who lost to a species that hasn't even mastered proper space travel." The massive cannons began powering up, their energy signatures visible to every sensor in the system. In 30 seconds, New Haven would become a crater, and with it, any evidence of the Kryllian Empire's most humiliating defeat. That's when Captain Riley Nash's voice cut through their communications one final time. "You know, Commander, we've been recording this entire conversation." Zethkar's blood turned to ice water. "Recording what?" "Everything. Your casual discussion of genocide. Your orders to target civilians. Your admission that you're committing war crimes to save your precious reputation." Her voice carried the satisfaction of someone holding a winning hand. "Marcus, you want to tell him the good news?" Engineer Marcus Volt's cheerful voice filled the bridge. "Oh, this is the best part. See, we've been broadcasting your entire invasion attempt live across 17 different galactic networks. Real-time coverage of the mighty Kryllian Empire being handed their collective rear ends by a bunch of farmers and school kids." "Broadcasting to whom?" Zethkar whispered. "Everyone, bug brain. The Andorian News Network, the Galactic Broadcasting Corporation, the Independent Spacers Communication Hub. Oh, and my personal favorite, the Conquered Species Support Group chat room. Boy, are they having a field day with this." Through his tactical display, Zethkar watched in horror as message alerts began flooding in from across the galaxy. Species that had cowered before Kryllian might for generations were suddenly asking pointed questions about their so-called invincible conquerors. Communications Officer Keldan's voice cracked as he read the incoming transmissions. "Sir, we're receiving messages from the Vorthak resistance movement asking for tactical advice from the humans. The Crystal City survivors want to know if the New Haven defense strategy can be adapted to their environment. And the Aquarian remnant fleet is there laughing at us, sir." The final nail in his coffin came from his own crew. Tactical Officer Nexvor stepped forward, his weapon drawn and pointed at Zethkar's primary heart. "Commander, as your subordinate and a citizen of the Kryllian Empire, I cannot allow you to commit genocide for the sake of your wounded pride." "Mutiny?" Zethkar gasped. "Sanity," Nexvor replied. "These humans have shown the entire galaxy that we're not the unstoppable force we pretended to be. But they've also shown that we don't have to be monsters." As rebellion spread through his own ranks and the galaxy watched his empire's reputation crumble in real time, Zethkar realized that the humans had accomplished something no military force in galactic history had ever managed. They had defeated the Kryllian Empire without firing a single shot at its heart. They had simply held up a mirror. The mutiny aboard the Dominion's Edge became the spark that ignited a galactic powder keg. Within minutes of Tactical Officer Nexvor's rebellion, similar uprisings erupted across the entire Kryllian fleet. Crew members who had spent their careers following orders without question suddenly found themselves asking why they were trying to exterminate a species that had shown more honor in 12 hours than their empire had demonstrated in 12 decades. Captain Riley Nash's voice returned to the communications channel, but this time it carried the tone of someone addressing a beaten enemy. "Attention all Kryllian forces. You have 30 seconds to power down your weapons and prepare for boarding. Resist, and we'll show you what humans do when we stop playing nice." Zethkar, now restrained by his own officers, watched in disbelief as the ragtag human fleet approached his supposedly superior vessels. The cargo hauler Rusty Bucket latched onto his flagship with what appeared to be modified industrial clamps. The mobile casino somehow disabled 3 escort destroyers using weaponized slot machines. And Crazy Eddie's garbage scow proved to contain enough firepower to level a small moon. How? Zethkar whispered as human boarding parties swarmed through his corridors. How did primitives with chemical rockets defeat the most advanced military force in the galaxy? Dr. Elena Cross answered him as she walked onto his bridge, flanked by a group of humans that included everyone from teenagers to senior citizens. "Because you made the same mistake every bully makes, Commander. You assumed that being strong meant you were smart." The agricultural scientist gestured to the tactical displays showing the complete collapse of Kryllian resistance across 17 star systems. "Your technology is impressive, but it was designed by committee, built to specifications and operated by manual. Ours was jury-rigged by necessity, powered by desperation, and operated by people who understand that the best weapon is the one your enemy doesn't expect." Engineer Marcus Volt grinned as he examined the bridge's control systems. "Plus, you guys really need to update your cybersecurity. My 12-year-old nephew could have hacked these systems with a calculator and some chewing gum." The final humiliation came when 10-year-old Emma Martinez skipped onto the bridge, still wearing her school uniform and carrying what appeared to be a tablet computer. "Hi, Mr. Alien Commander. I've been live streaming your surrender to my social media followers. You're trending across 37 different species networks. The hashtag is KryllianFail and it's got over 2 billion views. Across the galaxy, the impossible footage spread like wildfire. Species that had lived in terror of Kryllian expansion for generations watched in amazement as farmers in overalls accepted the surrender of star destroyers. The Vortak Confederacy's survivors openly wept with joy. The Crystal City's remnants began planning their liberation. And the Aquarian fleet transmitted what could only be described as victory songs. Sub-Commander Rix Tal, now wearing restraints provided by the New Haven Boy Scout Troop, shook his head in defeated wonder. 17 star systems. 17 conquered worlds. All of them watching a human agricultural colony make fools of us. "Correction," Captain Riley Nash said as she accepted Zethkar's formal surrender. "All of them learning that bullies are just cowards with better equipment. And cowards, no matter how advanced their technology, will always lose to people fighting for their homes." The Kryllian Empire didn't fall in a day. It collapsed in 12 hours, brought down not by superior firepower but by superior heart. 6 months later, former Commander Zethkar sat in a holding cell aboard New Haven Station, watching galactic news feeds that made his defeat look like a gentle prelude to chaos. The Kryllian Empire was hemorrhaging territory faster than a punctured fuel tank. The Vortak had liberated themselves using modified mining equipment and tactical advice from farmer Joe Henderson. The Crystal Cities had rebuilt using architectural plans shared freely by New Haven's construction crews. The Aquarian fleet now flew alongside human cargo vessels, learning what they called the Henderson Doctrine of Improvised Warfare. 17 star systems in rebellion, he muttered to himself, reading the scrolling headlines. All because of one agricultural colony. His guard, a cheerful young human named Tommy Peterson, who brought him coffee and homemade cookies every morning, nodded sympathetically. "Yeah, it's been pretty wild. My mom says it's the biggest thing to happen since humanity invented the warp drive. She's really proud that our little colony started a galactic revolution." Through his cell window, Zethkar could see the construction of what humans were calling the Liberation Memorial. Species from across the galaxy had sent representatives to New Haven, turning the small colony into an unlikely diplomatic center. The memorial's centerpiece was a statue of Dr. Elena Cross holding a farming tool in one hand and a peace treaty in the other. The final insult came when Tommy handed him a letter marked with the seal of the Galactic Council. "This just came for you, Mr. Zethkar. Looks official." The letter informed him that he was being charged with war crimes, His military rank had been stripped, and he would be tried by a tribunal that included representatives from every species his empire had conquered. The trial would be held on New Haven, overseen by human judges who specialized in something called restorative justice. "You know what the really funny part is?" Tommy asked, settling into his chair with the casual friendliness that had initially terrified Zethkar more than any weapon. "My grandpa always said that humans are dangerous because we don't know when to quit. But I think it's simpler than that." Zethkar looked up from his letter. "What do you mean?" Tommy grinned with the innocent wisdom of someone who had grown up watching his neighbors turn garden tools into galactic liberation equipment. "We're dangerous because we care about each other, and people who care about each other will always find a way to protect what matters." As news feeds continued reporting the collapse of tyranny across 17 star systems, Zethkar finally understood the truth that would reshape galactic politics forever. Never attack a species that treats family dinner as sacred. Because they'll turn the entire universe into their dining room before they'll let you hurt their loved ones. The galaxy had learned to fear humanity, but more importantly, it had learned to hope.